Hey everybody, what is up? It's your friends Cory Camp and Brian McGill back at you with another Wednesday. Cory Camp, what is up?
Oh man, it's been a busy week this week already. I'm ready for Friday, but it's fall. It's officially fall, which makes me so happy. I need to get some flavored coffee so I kind of can feel all of that coffee house fallness in my house since I don't leave the house in the mornings. But yeah, I'm ready for all the pumpkins and the costumes and the campfires, all of it. What about you, Brian?
Well, it's a big month for getting outdoors for me. This weekend I'm going on a 2-night, 3-day I guess backpacking trip with some of my classmates and their families from BMI. So it's going to be just kind of a good time to kind of get outdoors, and it should be cold. I think it's going to get down in the 40s, but I don't care. It's fine.
Yeah, you might be pop-up?
No, well, so it's backpacking. So I think we're camping at a campsite for like the first night, but then I think I'm sleeping under a tarp for the next 2. So
I want to go camping, but I either need to rent an RV or do a cabin. I mean, I did the whole tent thing over 4th of July, and now that I'm older, glamping is more my style. It's more my speed. But yeah. Well, I'm excited for this month of What's Up Wednesday shows. We met earlier this week with Kyle, and we did a little planning in the background, and we're hoping to bring some themes, a couple of fun shows. I know everyone's just purely exhausted as they've gotten through the start of school. Some are just starting school this week, and so we hope to bring a little fun, maybe some competition to the What's Up Wednesday show.
Funny competition. Oh my goodness, it's going to be crazy out here.
It's going to be fun.
I'm still looking for recommendations on what to do back here in my new office. I do not have as colorful of a background as our friends Cory Camp.
My fall leaves now. Yeah.
But we have a very special interview today with 2 of my favorite university directors here. Here in my home state of Pennsylvania, Dr. James Preston and Stephanie Williams of Slippery Rock University and Edinboro University. Welcome to the party.
Hi, Brian. Hi, Cory.
Hi.
I'm all about the cold coffee, and I'm also all about the glamping.
You and me, Stephanie, we should get together and do some glamping. That'd be fun.
Jim and Stephanie, you've been leading some really impressive programs and managing a lot of change this year from COVID-19 to even kind of reimagining some of the ways you better support teachers this year. And I've really kind of admired that work of yours. And so I just thought that today is the perfect kind of time to kind of have a discussion. So other members of our community can learn from you all. Why don't you kind of open things up and tell us a little bit about your programs? We'll start with you, Jim.
Thanks, Brian. So at Slippery Rock University, we're in Pennsylvania. We're part of the state system of higher education. There are 14 schools currently in the state system. We typically produce anywhere from around 250 initial teacher certification candidates every year, typically around 90 to 100 in the fall and 150 to 175 in the spring. And, we produce teachers in all areas from PK to 4, special education, physical and health education, music, and of course, all of the content areas at the secondary level. Here at Slippery Rock, we have about 8,800 students in a typical school year, and we have a growing graduate program. But my role here is as assistant to the dean, and I coordinate the student teaching semester each semester, and it's as a a former high school math teacher turned teacher educator, it's certainly something that I enjoy doing and really have a heart for.
Excellent. And you know, I think we were talking, you know, what were some of the challenges to that field supervision process? I guess that kind of started some of our conversations here at Sibme.
You going with me, Cory, or Brian? So, I mean, you know, at Slippery Rock, we just are trying to move forward and try to be progressive. And, you know, I believe you had called me, Brian, and talked about the opportunities that you could help us with here at Slippery Rock. And you were persistent, and, you know, me being a very deliberate person, it took me a while, but, you know, I saw that the programs needed to move from less of a supervision model in student teaching to a coaching model. And I saw Sibme as a key component of that. And, you know, we were moving slowly towards that goal. And of course, the pandemic hit. And so it was nice to be positioned with Sibme to assist us in using Sibme in virtual supervision.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Dr. Williams, talk to us a little bit about your work over at Nboro. Tell us about your program.
Okay, Edinboro is in the northwestern corner of Pennsylvania, just a little north of Slippery Rock, and we are also one of the 14 state schools. And like Jim, we offer special education in early childhood. We offer all the whole gamut of middle level and secondary education and programs. We have approximately 100 initial cert teacher graduates every single year. We also have a very strong graduate program, and we have many students returning to pick up that teacher certification in the graduate program. So we've seen some growth there. So as far as Sibme goes, COVID hit, and we were strictly following the supervision model. I've been in the job a year and a half, so I'm learning as I go, but I bring experience of 15 years as a high school principal. So I know clearly what we see on that end and what I saw when student teachers came into my building. So it's nice to have the whole view of the student teacher process. So when COVID hit, we quickly went to a strictly online, because honestly, COVID hit the beginning of March, and within 2 or 3 days, we had to make a move. So unlike Jim, who was already part of Sibme, and the transition, I'm assuming, was a little easier, for us, it was not easy. So, but this gave our teachers, our faculty, the opportunity to look at all the competencies, and then they had to develop YouTube videos, they had to develop online assignments to make sure all these competencies were met. And luckily, our students were able to be in classrooms for about 9 weeks. So the transition to Sibme was really a natural one, and our faculty, they were able to look at the supervision model to a strictly online model where they had to have 100% participation and planning lessons for these competencies to be met, to then we transitioned to Sibme.
Yeah, and it's definitely been, as I've been working with a lot of our university customers, both those who have had us before our pandemic times and those who are coming to us because, like Edinboro did, because they needed a solution to help them go virtual for the first time. There is this transition period in kind of rethinking, just like our teachers are having to rethink and redesign the experiences for their learners now with this additional dimension of virtual, or purely through a virtual dimension. We're having to think a little bit about those field-based assignments and experiences, and how do we see those competencies within that. And there's much more urgency this year, and this summer there was, than there has been in past programs, I've noticed. So I'm really interested to hear from both of you about your adoption process. What were some things that you anticipated, and then what were some things that really surprised you about the adoption process with using video in your supervision and the field-based experiences?
If I'll go, Stephanie, if you don't mind. So, you know, we had started with a pilot program. And when we started with the pilot program, Brian, had set us up with that, and I worked with the faculty that were interested. I made the offer to faculty, who's interested in trying this. And so I was working with those who were interested and who were, if they weren't technologically savvy, they were willing to put the work in to become technologically savvy. And so it was a pilot process, and there was a lot of good feedback. And then we decided to, adopt it for a semester. And as I had always talked with Brian and Cory about, the challenge is getting into the schools and using video. In the western part of Pennsylvania, they're pretty conservative in the schools, and doing video recordings in the school classrooms with the children in the videos is always a little tricky situation. And so, our adoption has been slow, and we've been working with those who have been willing to work with us, both at Slippery Rock faculty and both as our school partners. It's been a willingness, and then again, as I said, the pandemic hit, and then there was a necessity in a lot of school districts to work with that. And so, just in K-12, at least from what I recall, you start with the willing. You start with the ones who want to work, and you show that it works well, and then others see that it works well, and then it sort of snowballs into something that is sort of institutionalized. And we're still in that process. We still have faculty that absolutely want to go and observe students face to face, and we agree that face to face conversations, with the cooperating teacher being seen in the schools, being present, is very important. And we're not trying to supplant that, but we're trying to, have an addition to that type of supervision, and again, add that coaching component.
I mean, that makes richer conversation, right? And strong relationships between student teachers and supervisors. So Dr. Williams, what kind of surprised you about the adoption process? Because Jim has been at this for a little over, I guess, 18 months or a year to 2 years. And your adoption process has been this summer. So there are a bunch of universities adopting Sibme this summer, and they've gone through the training process. What has surprised you about this process, and what has been kind of expected? Go ahead.
When COVID hit, my dean asked me to take a look at some online observation platforms and some avatar platforms, some different platforms, just in the event that we were going to be online. We better be prepared. So honestly, I spent March, April, May, June, July looking at various platforms, and then comes an email from Jim to all of the field directors. So the field directors in Pennsylvania, from all across Pennsylvania, meet up usually twice a year, but we've been meeting about once a month. So we support one another, we give one another ideas and suggestions, and we truly really work to align with one another, because often students from Edinboro may transfer to Slippery Rock or vice versa. So whatever we can do as a team of field directors to make this easier for our students, we certainly want to do. So when the email came from Jim, hey, I've been working with this program for a few years. In light of COVID, you may want to take a look at it. I think I gave him a quick call, and then I set up an appointment with Cory. And honestly, I think within about a week, I had an initial meeting. It was exactly what we needed to fill our need at Edinboro University School of Education. And I think, honestly, we had the contract within a week. The process was exceptionally smooth for us.
I love to hear that. I know, that's usually the big question is, how big of a lift is this going to be for our department, and not just our faculty members, but you also have to think about your students, and how soon can we get going, especially when we're looking for something that we needed yesterday. And so one of the great things about Sibme is at a very basic level, you can get everyone updated, set up within a day, depending on how simple you want to set up your account. And then it can always become more complex and sophisticated as you get going. All of our training is on demand and available, but then we also offer some support to really talk through your specific use cases, so we can build that time in. And then, of course, as you get going, that's really where the questions come in is, okay, I have this tool that's going to let me record or capture learning both in person and online. And I have these spaces to share those securely and privately. But now what? And so really that's where I spend a lot of my time working with our customers and helping them with the now what piece. And it is a big lift ultimately if you're really looking at transforming your program. If this is because it kind of fundamentally changes, it's not supplanting, right? It's really supplementing, it's enhancing, it makes it more robust. It may look on paper more low touch, but it really is a little bit more high touch now that you are increasing the access to the classroom for the teacher candidate and the supervisor to work together with that cooperating teacher. There's lots of ways that you can do it. So one of the things that we've really taken some pride in is we're pretty fanatical about our customer success. That's been our word for this week, fanatical. And so yeah, we try to help everybody get up and running. And there are some bumps in the road. So there's some potholes that are pretty much just par for course when you're doing this type of change management, but we like to help you through those and let you know what you might anticipate to see. So I love that. What are your students saying about their experience? Have you gotten some feedback? Are there some unique ways that you were anticipating them to use the platform that you're starting to see?
I'll jump in if you don't mind, Stephanie. I think one of the things we're seeing our physical and health education department using it prior to student teaching. And I was reflecting on the drive up here as to why that might be. And you know, even though our phys ed department has moved towards the school wellness educator model, you know, instead of the phys ed teacher being the gym teacher and teaching about sport, we sort of know that folks who go into that side of the teacher education or the teacher certification area probably are involved in athletics. And we know that athletes use video a lot to analyze themselves. And so maybe that's why, you know, they are pretty hardcore adopters of Sibme in using video. And so, you know, they use it prior to, and also in addition to using it out in a classroom, I believe some of our pre-student teachers who are not able to go into a classroom right now because schools are just saying, you know, we want to reduce the number of students and people in the classroom because we have, you know, mandates for minimum or maximum capacity and things like that. You know, they can put a video together in their own, you know, space, we'll say, and then have, you know, a field supervisor comment on their lesson. So it may not be capturing a video in front of actual K-12 students, but it's them teaching, and the supervisor can look at it, you know, within Sibme. They can post comments, and again, real-time comments, you know, within the lesson are always great, and it's things that you can't do whenever someone is teaching unless you interrupt class, and we know that's not a good thing. And so those, I think, are some of the things that our students are seeing, is that they can do a lesson, whether it be in the classroom or just in their own space, and then get that feedback and that detailed feedback at you know, at time 5 minutes and 12 seconds into their lesson.
We've had a couple situations where some of the schools didn't want students or their teachers being recorded. So we've truly individualized each supervisor. They've done a phenomenal job individualizing how we use it in each school district. Most of the all of the schools have accepted Sibme. Some of the faculty, some of our supervisors are making at least one visit into the school if they're permitted in. Some are not permitted in. Sibme's also allowed us to place our students sometimes a little closer to their hometown so that they don't have to live on campus. So we're using Sibme to go as far as Warren or Olean, New York, or wherever. Our Field 1 and Field 2 students now have the opportunity to look at their, with permission of course, but they look at some of these recordings. So faculty members in Field 1 and Field 2, while these students aren't out in the field, they're able to see live event teaching with one of their peers who may be a year or two older than them, and Also following the whole curriculum that we're following at Edinboro, they're able to see some really live event examples of effective teaching or non-effective teaching. So we're using some of these recordings to teach our early education students in their freshman and sophomore years. Students have made the transition without any problem at all. They're naturals, and to be honest with you, our faculty, they've embraced it, participated in the trainings, and when they have a question, Cory, you answer honestly, sometimes at midnight on Saturdays, on Sundays. That answer, they're not waiting for a response, which is decreasing their anxiety tremendously.
Well, we're happy to help. I know it's a whole team of us that support the success of all of our customers, and we've got that live chat feature inside Sibme, as well as ways to contact us at any time. So I love hearing that. But what I want to hone in on is kind of the theme between both of your responses is, initially, and we see this a lot even in K-12, we think this is a tool to support an individual. And then we start to see that this is a way for peers to see each other in instruction and learn a little bit from somebody who's, in the same boat, but a little bit further up, a little bit more sophisticated of a raft that they're in. We see that, a lot of universities begin to see this pretty quickly as an opportunity. If they include some of their instructors and professors into the supervisor training, those individuals are going, can I use this in my methods course? Can I use this in that Field 1, Field 2 stage? Because video, while it's really great at giving you the current reality, capturing the current reality, that's one of the things that Sibme does really well. We've got recording tools, screen recording tools. You can go live. It's great at capturing the instruction as it happens, if there's instruction happening. But so much of what we need to experience in our preparation programs as educators is, I learned much more from, in the beginning, seeing examples and non-examples of instructional practices and strategies being played out with live students, that it really is this models of demonstration. You can provide focused analysis. So by the time they get in physically in that space in front of their own students, they're already much more sophisticated in their mental models to think about and be responsive to instruction. Our resident adjunct professor, Allison Burnett, uses this in her preparation courses to have students, like Jim mentioned, just rehearse from inside their own apartment. They don't even have students, but they're practicing they're in the lesson planning unit of the course, and they are immediately able to then rehearse what that lesson plan would look like, record themselves, re-record themselves, and share it for some feedback, even though there aren't live students there. And really, that is a lot of every teacher who's in a school, their current reality. They're creating videos with no one on the other end of the camera yet for their students to watch these flipped instructional videos that they're creating so their students can work asynchronously. And so I think that's a really great way to have our teacher candidates beginning to practice, because that may be their reality. They're going to have some live instruction and some asynchronous instruction in their future, and that really can help with that. Allison is joining, watching us. Here she is. She's a Slippery Rock grad. I forgot to mention that, Allison. So awesome to have you watching with us today. Brian, anything that you want to add to that?
Well, I think it's amazing. The Slippery Rock program in Edinboro. It's just, I feel like I run into somebody doing something amazing from Slippery Rock at almost every level, and education and other higher education programs. I'm working with another Slippery Rock grad. I was Allison here with our ed tech company, and then in some Slippery Rock grads in other states, down in Virginia and North Carolina. I've run into. So it's amazing how Slippery Rock is touching education kind of all over. So I guess we got time for our last question here. What advice would you offer new Sibme subscribers this semester? And I guess Jim, we'll start with you as well.
Thanks, Brian. We were fortunate. We were fortunate to be able to start slow and not, sort of have to jump in with both feet. And I thought that was advantageous. So as I'd mentioned earlier, it's nice to start with the folks that want to do this. And we know that in education, and I think maybe Stephanie would agree, in higher ed, we're a little slow to change. Some of us like to think that we're pretty progressive, but in fact, sometimes I think we're a little slow. We're rooted in tradition a lot. And so this is moving a little bit away from what is traditional. And so, my advice might be just to find those folks who really want to work with this, have them demonstrate that it is, a tool that both is rooted in the tradition but also advances any program that uses it. And then, just today I've heard a lot of good ideas, great ideas on how to use it that I didn't think about. And so, the other bit of advice might be to connect with other users and get their experiences.
And then, because we did jump in with both feet, what happened with our faculty? Because for a part of one semester, they were totally responsible to review the competencies and to develop lessons. So to them, this was an opportunity to have a lot of that legwork done for them. So they fully embraced it. But I agree with Jim. I'd reach out to others, and I would ask a lot of questions to the Sibme people, but reach out to other adopters. And Sibme, you were able to provide names to me so that I could contact people. And then from there, we made, what I feel was the best decision for our university.
The best, I think the best way to do it, obviously, we were always going to make introductions because we have a great community of subscribers that really want to share their learnings with one another. In fact, I feel like our subscribers are making Sibme more than anything else. Obviously, the development in the company, the leadership help, but it's funny how much this company is almost as much of our community's company as well. And Cory, you just had a roundtable last week. People can access that on demand, right?
Yeah, it was going to be the thing after we let Jim and Stephanie go. I was going to mention, and so it's a perfect segue into it. I'll just mention it now. Last week, we had our very first community roundtable. So if you didn't hear about it, you need to look for those teachable moments. We'll also advertising. I'm looking to hold one a month, and these are really targeted at specific community groups, right? So we did higher ed and field supervisors, and we had San Diego State University, who was able to join us live, University of Georgia, and a Harris County early education support program that joined us. So we had a great conversation. I talked a little bit about the screen recording and the goals feature as it's relevant to the field work, but it was awesome because San Diego State was the veteran user in that community, and they were able to share some things, but they were also able to learn a little bit from those who were newer adopters with University of Georgia and Harris County. So that is available on demand if you want to check that out. It's in the Better Together conference site. So we're continuing to use the Better Together Summit's response and site to connect people together. So, but yeah, it was a really great conversation. Jim and Stephanie, I know y'all weren't able to make that, but we had some good conversation about just the overall field supervision process and how that's looking in hybrid and virtual and in-person settings this year, and some ways to think about how to do that with some best practices. So yeah, it was a great conversation. We really do have a great community. So many of our customers are willing to share their journey and how they would do it differently and the thing that they wouldn't change about their journey. And so I really love that we get to connect our communities together.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you all for your time today on our What's Up Wednesday show. Stephanie and Jim, thank you very much for joining us today. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cory. Thank you, Brian.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right, Brian. So next week, let me just look at who our guest is for next week. I'm pretty excited about it. Next week, we have one of our consulting organization, one of our companies that does a lot of consulting, FieldBased, formerly, you may know them as Catapult Learning, but Sue Gerenstein from FieldBased will be joining us and talking a little bit about how, much like Jim and Slippery Rock, they've been a user before COVID, but how has that been advantageous for them, and how have things been shifting in the work they do in professional learning and job embedded coaching in their organization? So join us next week for that conversation. And then following that, we'll have our own Jeff Ritter on to talk a little bit more about some amazing updates we've already made to goals, because we've had people using them and in that feature in our platform, and some updates we've made as a request from our customers. So it's going to be a good month on Wednesdays. Every Wednesday, we've got some great lined up. So join us.
Your goals with Sibme Goals and Jeff Ritter. Okay.
That's right. That's right. That's right. All right, everyone. We will see you next week. Maybe have something fun up our sleeves for that. Of course, the Wednesday before Halloween, we'll be dressing up. So I'm having a hard time figuring out what I'm going to be this Halloween. So I don't know, have some input from our audience to help me pick that out. But
maybe we should start a poll. I don't know. I can't. We shouldn't be the same. We can't be the same characters that we were last year.
No, we can't be. We can't be. So, and my kids have lots of opinions. So I'll put together a list of some things I'm thinking about, and maybe we'll get a poll out there. So, all right. And then whoever we have on that Wednesday is going to have to dress up with us too.
Uh-oh.
I mean, that should happen. All right, Brian, I will see you next week. Everyone, have a great day.
Have a good week.